What's up guys, my name's Brandon and welcome back to Apple Weekly. Today, we're going to be talking about the iPhone 15 Pro Max and the change that's coming to the camera, why Tim Cook might be making a mistake with Apple's AR/VR headset, the reason Android users are switching over to iPhone at a 5-year high, another bizarre AirTag story, and much more. Alright, so let's start with the iPhone 15 Pro Max and why the cameras on the back might look a bit different this year. So we're now expecting to see a rearrangement to the camera lenses on this phone because the long-awaited periscope lens is said to be coming to the iPhone for the first time. Now this is going to allow for 5 or 6x optical zoom, which is double that of the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which has a 3x optical zoom. And this rumor comes from Unknowns21 on Twitter, who said this: the camera arrangement has changed compared to the iPhone 14 Pro Max. The ultra-wide and telephoto cameras have swapped positions, so the camera between the flash and LiDAR sensor is the one with periscope lens on the 15 Pro Max. And speaking of the iPhone 15, credible analyst Ross Young has said that production for the iPhone 15 display panels is expected to begin in June. Now he also says that both iPhone 15 and 15 Pro models are expected to have a quote, early lead in volume, meaning that Apple is expecting more demand compared to the 14 series. And then moving on to the iPhone 16, which is coming next year in 2024, Ming-Chi Kuo just recently reported that he expects Apple to slap that periscope lens on the regular 16 Pro in 2024, and that it's not going to be exclusive to the Pro Max like it will be this year. He also mentions that the display size for the iPhone 16 Pro will be slightly larger than the iPhone 14 and 15 Pros, which were at 6.1 inches, and we heard about this before. So this allows the 16 Pro to equip that periscope camera thanks to larger internal space. So it seems like space was really the issue this year. That's why Apple had to put the periscope lens on the Pro Max only. But this kind of just, confirms again why we're getting bigger sizes next year for next year's model. So we're going to see like maybe a 6.8 inch and a 6.4 inch is what the early rumors are suggesting. But of course that can and probably will change. Now in this same report, Kuo also mentions how Apple has already been working on a second generation mixed reality headset. Now, he also reiterates that there will be a high-end and a low-end version of this headset, and he says that shipments of this second generation headset, which will most likely be the cheaper version, are expected to be around 10 times that of the first generation coming this year. And that makes sense because at $3,000, not a lot of people are going to be buying this first generation headset, but to see a 10x in sales and, at least expected sales, tells a lot about how much the price point obviously plays a role in how well this headset sells. And speaking of the headset, the founder of Oculus just said this on Twitter: the Apple headset is so good. That's it. That's the news. That's coming from the founder of Oculus, who knows a thing or two about AR and especially VR. So that is very promising to hear that somebody like that is blown away by Apple's headsets. But not all is well, especially internally at Apple, because Tim Cook might be making a mistake with this headset. At least that's the current narrative according to a lengthy Bloomberg report. Now, this report is titled Apple's New Headset Meets Reality, and it dives into the history of the headset, the original vision, which began all the way back in 2015, and really just gives a great breakdown. This is a great article by Mark Gurman. I highly suggest you read it if you're into this, but it touches on internal struggles of this headset as well, because key Apple executives like Tim Cook and Craig Federighi have kept their distance from the mixed reality headset throughout the entire development process, which has led to disappointment from the designers and other employees who are working on this project. Cook was adamant on his preference for AR, preferably in the form of lightweight glasses. Quote, nobody in here thinks it's acceptable to be tethered to a computer, walking in here and sitting down. Few people are going to view that it's acceptable to be enclosed in something because we're all social people at heart. But despite his strong views, Cook was not deeply engaged in the specific design of the headset, and that comes from people who have worked with him. So this was notably different from Steve Jobs, who was famous for imposing his strong design sensibilities onto Apple products down to the feel of a touchscreen or the shade of blue used in a Mac app icon. Tim Cook, in contrast, made his name overseeing operations and has really never been the product guy. Quote, "The closest Cook gets to product development is a demo," says one of the people, but even then, he's not the type of guy who says it should do X and not Y. He's the complete opposite of Steve Jobs in terms of having strong opinions. But still, some people involved in the headset project say that Tim Cook's relative non-involvement has been more consequential this time, given the stakes. The budget has exceeded $1 billion annually, with more than 1,000 engineers dedicated to this project, and the extent to which the direction of the project has changed. His approach was sometimes perceived as indecision, leading to delays and concerns about obtaining sufficient resources. Quote, "Tim didn't throw his weight around the project at all, and this frustrated people." So like I said, this is a very lengthy report. That's only a small excerpt from it. But, as I've always said, I don't feel like Apple is the company who's going to push out a half-baked product. Like, this may be the most half-baked product Apple ever pushes out, but at the end of the day, it's Apple. I don't think it's going to be like some beta product that they announced at the Worldwide Developers Conference. I think they've probably been wanting to release this for a while now. It's just strange because some people say that they're blown away with the headset, and then we see reports like this where employees and Apple executives who have most definitely been involved in the project are just saying that they should stop wasting their time and stick to, working on the iPhone and the iPhone chips. That's what, somebody at Apple even said. So I don't know. I think that the Worldwide Developers Conference on June 5th is going to be one for the books. I'm going to say it right now. I think it's going to be one of the best Worldwide Developers Conference ever of all time. Okay, so now let's move on to a new trend in technology. And I talked about this in my recent Apple Den newsletter. And this is what we're seeing now. This is the new Beats Studio Plus and the return of the transparent design. So like I mentioned in that newsletter, I believe Game Boy was the first to do something like this, at least in my, memory. And then the Nothing phone came out, and then the Nothing earbuds came out, which had that really cool design as well. And now, of course, we have these Beats Studio Buds Plus. Now, they're $169, and I have to say, this new color and the overall design is sick. I really hope that Apple makes a transparent iPhone one day. I know that's less than 1% likely, but still, I love this design. I don't know. Do you guys like it? Do you think it's cool? Or, do you think that Apple and everybody else should just stick to regular basic colors? Because I think this is new and it's fun, especially in a time where the past 10 years, everybody's just been kind of copying everybody else in terms of product design. And then speaking of the iPhone and copying everybody else, let's talk about Android users switching to iPhone and how that's at a 5-year high right now. So this data is from a new report from CIRP, who breaks down the percentage of new iPhone customers who switched over from an Android. So in 2023, 15% of iPhone buyers reported switching from an Android phone, while 83% stayed with an iPhone. And that 15% is a 4% increase from last year and a 5% increase from 2020 and 2021. Now, the last time that Android switchers made up 15% of new iPhone buyers was back in 2018, 5 years ago. And the peak of this, by the way, if you're wondering, was in 2016, where it hit a rate of 21%, which is pretty massive when we're talking about millions and millions of devices. Now, unfortunately, this report doesn't really give us any insights as to why people are switching any 5-year high right now. But if I had to guess, it's probably more software related, because the hardware is pretty close. Yes, the iPhone is still better in terms of video quality and things like that, but the software on iPhone is just far and away better than Android, at least in my opinion. And I think a lot of Android users are starting to see that as well. And then finally, we have a crazy emergency SOS and a crazy AirTag story to share. So first off, let's give more praise to the emergency SOS via satellite feature that is on the new iPhones, because we've seen this save so many people time and time and time again. I've done these episodes for over a year now, and pretty much every episode I talk about how this feature has saved a life. So in the latest version of emergency SOS via satellite saving people, it just saved 10 stranded hikers in California. So they were hiking a canyon, and ironically, the area where they were stranded was called Last Chance. So they were stuck there, and even though nobody was near them and they didn't even have cell signal, one of the hikers had an iPhone 14 and was able to utilize the feature to contact the Ventura County Sheriff's Dispatch and provide location details and if medical attention was needed. And just 30 minutes after making initial contact with these rescue officials via text message, the safety and rescue team deployed 13 members to the reported area, and they located the hikers about 4 miles into the canyon. Now, the group consisted of 10 teenagers, all between 16 and 18 years old, and they were hiking for around 3 hours when they found themselves lost and stranded in that last chance area. And according to officials, the group was not prepared for the hike at all. They didn't even bring basic things like food, water, or flashlights. So pretty stupid of them, but also pretty genius of the emergency SOS via satellite feature, and just another great reminder to always have this feature turned on. And if you are somebody who goes out into the wild and potentially loses signal and you have the chance of getting lost, you should definitely get an iPhone 14 for this feature alone. And then we always have to end Apple Weekly with a crazy AirTag story. And this time it comes from a man who bought a car at CarMax in Orlando, Florida. So he bought the car, he drove it all the way home, and then he noticed the anti-stalking alert on his iPhone, only to find out that an AirTag was placed inside of the car that he just bought. And I'm not talking about just inside, like he can pull it out of, one of the seats. It was like inside of the car. So after he investigated it further, he found that the AirTag was somewhere in the rear body of the car, but he wasn't able to find the exact location, so he was not even able to remove it. And of course, CarMax is saying that they don't put AirTags in their vehicles, so it was the previous owner, and that they, may help him out with an inspection to get it taken out, but they haven't done so as of now. And while the man doesn't believe that the previous owner of this car is stalking him, he is concerned that whoever owns the AirTag just knows where he lives. He knows where he parks his car, and he knows even where he drops his daughter off. So you just never know where you're gonna find an AirTag these days, and that's why it's always important to just stay alert and make sure that if you ever get the alert on your phone that says, an unknown AirTag is tracking you or following you, take that seriously. Oh, and one last funny thing I want to mention, because I posted this on Twitter and it got quite a few funny responses. Hermes just dropped a new AirPods Pro case with a lanyard that costs a staggering $930. So if you have a lot of money, or if you just don't care about blowing money, I will leave a link to that Hermes AirPods case down in the description below. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I would appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up. Also, make sure to subscribe, and also don't forget to check out the iOS Weekly video, which I posted yesterday. If you haven't been here for a while, I've separated iOS Weekly and Apple Weekly. They're two separate videos now instead of just one video. So check that out. It's in the cards and also down in the description below. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.